My name is Catherine. I'm 68 years old and for the past 10 years I thought I was a widow. My husband Michael died in a car accident in 2014, or at least that's what I was told. The funeral was closed casket. They said the accident was too severe. I mourned him properly, wore black for a year, kept his belongings exactly as he'd left them. But then came the debts. Michael's business partner, a man named Richard whom I'd known for 15 years, came to me a week after the funeral. He was somber, apologetic, holding a folder of documents. "Catherine, I hate to bring this up now," he'd said, but Michael had business debts. Significant ones. The company owes suppliers, creditors. If we don't pay, they'll come after everything, including your house. I was devastated. Michael had always handled our finances. I trusted him completely. Richard showed me invoices, contracts, numbers that made my head spin. "I'll help you," Richard offered. "Send me $800 monthly and I'll negotiate with creditors, keep them at bay. You won't lose the house." $800 wasn't easy on my pension, but I managed. I stopped eating out, canceled subscriptions, bought generic everything. Every month for 10 years, I transferred money to Richard's account. He'd text me updates. "Making progress, Catherine. You're doing great." Michael would be proud. $96,000. That's what I paid over a decade. Money that could have been college funds for my grandchildren, repairs on my aging car, the knee surgery my doctor kept recommending. Instead, it went to Richard, keeping the creditors away, or so I believed. Last month, everything changed. I was at the bank depositing my pension check when I saw him. A man in a gray suit talking to a teller. Same height, same walk, same way of running his fingers through his hair when he was thinking. "Michael." My heart stopped. The deposit slip fell from my hands. I stood frozen, staring at this man who looked exactly like my dead husband. He turned slightly and I saw his profile. That nose, that jawline. It was him. I was certain. He finished his transaction and walked toward the exit. I should have called out, should have run to him, but my legs wouldn't move. By the time I regained control, he was gone. I rushed outside, scanning the parking lot, but there was no sign of him. I drove home in a daze. Was I losing my mind? Was grief making me see things after all these years? But no, I was certain. That was Michael. I'd been married to the man for 30 years. I knew his every gesture, every movement. I went straight to my computer and did something I should have done years ago. I searched for Michael's death certificate online. It took an hour of navigating county records, but I found it. Except something was wrong. The certificate existed, but when I looked closer, the details were vague. Cause of death listed as multiple trauma, but no specific injuries. No autopsy report attached. I called the hospital listed on the certificate. They had no record of Michael ever being admitted. I called the funeral home. They confirmed they'd handled the service, but when I asked about the body, the director grew uncomfortable. "Mrs. Patterson, that was 10 years ago. Our records from that period are in storage." Everything felt wrong. I pulled out the accident report Richard had given me years ago. I'd never read it carefully, too overwhelmed by grief. Now I studied every word. The police report number didn't match any format I could find online. The officer's signature was illegible. The whole thing looked fake. My hands shaking, I called Richard. "We need to talk about Michael's debts," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Of course, Catherine. What's on your mind?" "I want to see the original contracts. The invoices. Everything." There was a pause. "Catherine, we've been through this. The paperwork is with the lawyers. I just need to review everything. Can you send me copies?" Another pause, longer this time. "I'll see what I can dig up. Let me get back to you." He never called back. I tried reaching him for 3 days. His phone went straight to voicemail. His office said he was traveling. Everything in my gut screamed that I'd been lied to. I hired a private investigator named Marcus. He was expensive, but I didn't care anymore. I showed him the photo of Michael from our last anniversary, described the man I'd seen at the bank, explained everything about the debts and Richard. Marcus worked fast. Within a week he called me. "Mrs. Patterson, you need to sit down for this. Your husband is alive. He's been living in Nevada under the name David Morrison. He works as a financial consultant. He's remarried." The room spun. "Remarried? How is that possible?" "He faked his death," Marcus explained. I found the paper trail. He and Richard staged everything. The accident, the death certificate, the funeral. It was all fabricated. They used a corrupt funeral director who's since been arrested for other fraud cases. Why? I whispered. Money. Your husband had embezzled from his own company. Rather than face prosecution, he disappeared. Richard helped him, and in return they've been splitting the money you've been sending. There were never any debts, Catherine. It was all a scam. I couldn't breathe. My husband, the man I'd loved for 30 years, had faked his death and let me mourn him while stealing from me for a decade. And Richard, whom I trusted, had been his accomplice. Marcus gave me an address in Las Vegas. That's where Michael lives now with his new wife. I stared at that address for hours. Part of me wanted to go there to confront him, to demand answers. But another part of me wanted justice, real justice, not just explanations. I called the police. Detective Sarah Chan took my statement, reviewed Marcus's evidence, and her face grew grimmer with each page. Mrs. Patterson, this is fraud, identity fraud, and theft. We're talking serious prison time for both of them. Over the next month, I watched everything unfold. The police arrested Richard first. He tried to deny everything, but the bank records were clear. Regular deposits from my account to his, then transfers to an account in Nevada registered to David Morrison. Then they arrested Michael in Las Vegas. I saw his mugshot on the news. He looked older, grayer, but it was definitely him. The man I'd married, the father of my children, the person I'd grieved for 10 years. The trial was surreal. I sat in the courtroom and listened to prosecutors detail how Michael had embezzled $200,000 from his company, how he'd planned his disappearance for months, how Richard had helped him create false documents and a fake funeral, how they'd then exploited my grief to extract another $96,000 from me over the years. Michael's new wife sat across the courtroom crying. She claimed she'd had no idea he was already married, that he'd told her he was a widower. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. When Michael took the stand, he wouldn't look at me. His lawyer tried to paint him as desperate, overwhelmed by debt, making terrible choices. But the evidence was overwhelming. The fake documents, the bank transfers, Marcus's investigation, all of it. Richard broke first. He agreed to testify against Michael in exchange for a reduced sentence. He admitted everything. How Michael had approached him with the plan, how they paid off a corrupt funeral director, how they created fake debt documents to keep me paying. The worst part was learning why. Michael hadn't been in debt. He'd simply wanted a new life. He was tired of our marriage, tired of responsibility, tired of being Michael Patterson. So he became David Morrison and started over, funding his new life with my money. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Michael was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. Richard got 8 years. The judge ordered them to pay full restitution, $96,000 plus damages and legal fees. But money wasn't what I wanted anymore. I wanted my 10 years back. I wanted the grief I'd felt to mean something. I wanted the man I'd loved to have actually existed, not to have been a lie. My children were devastated. Our daughter stopped speaking to her father entirely. Our son visited him once in prison, then never again. My grandchildren asked questions I couldn't answer. How do you explain to a child that their grandfather faked his own death? I used the restitution money to take my children and grandchildren on a trip to Ireland, something Michael and I had always planned. We scattered ashes there, not his but symbolic ones, letting go of the man we thought we'd known. I'm 68 now. I've started over genuinely this time. I volunteer at a senior center, helping other elderly people recognize financial fraud. I've spoken at community events about my story. If it helps even one person avoid what I went through, it's worth the embarrassment. Sometimes people ask if I hate Michael. I don't. Hate requires caring, and I don't care about him anymore. He's a stranger who stole from me, nothing more. I've learned that trust must be earned and verified. That grief makes us vulnerable. That family and friends can betray us in ways we never imagine. But I've also learned that I'm stronger than I thought. At 68, I fought back and won. So I ask you, if you discovered your dead spouse was alive, what would you do? Share your thoughts below and subscribe for more stories. Thank you for listening.